Hi, and thanks for tuning in to the Child Rights in Business Crib podcast, brought to you by the Centre for Child Rights in Business. The Centre is a social enterprise dedicated to helping businesses understand and address their impact on children, eliminate risks, and create positive outcomes while fulfilling human rights due diligence across the value chain. In Season 1 of this podcast, we highlighted impactful initiatives in Sri Lanka's tea sector through the Mother and Child-Friendly Seal for Responsible Business. Launched by the Centre and Save the Children in 2022, this initiative promotes and protects the rights of families in tea communities, especially women and children, by engaging stakeholders throughout the tea supply chain. We explored the challenges faced by women and children in these communities and discussed actions businesses can take to create a family-friendly tea industry. We're excited to be back for another season, continuing our exploration of human rights in the tea industry and the role of businesses. This time, we're taking our conversations global, speaking with key experts worldwide on ensuring sustainable tea production that prioritizes the well-being of people and the planet. In the upcoming episodes, you'll hear from our CEO, Ines Kaempfer, and our Sri Lanka Country Director, Ahila Tillanathan, as they interview representatives from various global tea associations, organizations, and social enterprises. Let's dive into the first of these conversations now.
Hi everyone, I'm here with Shabnam Weber, the president of the Canada Tea and Herbal Association. And we are here at the Colombo Tea Convention and thought this is a really great opportunity to bring a couple of important people in tea together and have a little bit of a chat on some key topics that we would like to bring to you. Shabnam, can you give us a very quick introduction of who you are? And a little bit about the Canada Tea and Herbal Association, please.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure. Greatly admire the work that you do in the organization. So as you've already said, I'm the president of the Tea and Herbal Association of Canada. I myself have been in the tea industry for over 20 years in the private sector before. So I actually owned my own tea company prior to taking over this current job. The association itself is a member-based association, so we represent about 90% of the tea that is sold in Canada. So membership is quite wide, from packers to importers, retailers, etc. And we are our mandate is quite large as well, which means that we do a lot of different types of work. We do government work, so dealing with regulators and issue management. We do research. We do communications and brand agnostic promotion, etc.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So we just had a very interesting panel in the last couple of, or in the last hour, where we were discussing wages and prices.
Yes.
So can you talk a little bit from your perspective? You were not on this panel, you were another panel,
yes.
But from your perspective, to what extent is this a critical issue in the global tea industry, and what do you think are the pain points that need to be addressed to resolve the fact that we need to find some solutions around pricing, in particular to then allow higher living standards, higher wages for the workers and for the tea producers?
Yeah, so I 100% agree and believe that it is a huge issue and a big pain point. But I also think that, you know, when we're having the conversation, and I was quite happy in today's panel that it was being had in a dynamic way with an understanding that there are issues in every part of the supply chain. So I should probably start by saying that I believe that everybody within the supply chain has a right to make a living. And that is every part of that supply chain. So yes, packers have a right to make a living, importers have a right to make a living, etc. The biggest issue within this industry, and we've heard this quite a bit just in today, and I'm sure we hear it on more panels tomorrow, is tea is too cheap. There is no secret pot of money that somebody within our supply chain is hiding and not distributing. That's a fact. Everybody is suffering to some extent. Everybody is dealing with issues. Everybody's getting pressure from downward pressure from somebody who's above them within the industry. Consumers do not pay enough for their product. Our product is used as a loss leader by supermarkets, and that has to stop. And I really believe that we as an industry need to take control of our own destinies. We need to take control back into our hands And we've talked about things like increasing the quality of the product in order to increase the value, not be chasing just yield and quantity, right? Because that, basic law of economics, it's going to drive down the price of tea. But more than anything, I think that we need to stop, really, truly refuse to sell tea below the cost of production, because that's what's happening right now. There is no other product, nothing that you can name me that would sell to a consumer for less than what it costs to make it, right? Your laptop, my phone, the car, whatever it is, nobody is selling the product for less than what it costs to make it. And yet we continue to do that in tea. So I think that that's a big issue. How do we do that? And as I said, I think we need to take control of that. And then the other is something actually that was raised in the panel today as well, is what systems can we then put into place to ensure that that price is evenly distributed? And there are a lot of different methods out there. I talked earlier today about technology, that we need to embrace it. Blockchain is one of those terms that I think people are afraid of. And I think that a lot of that fear comes from the fact of not understanding blockchain or associating it with cryptocurrency. Blockchain doesn't mean cryptocurrency, right? Blockchain is about being able to see exactly, transparency, really, to sum it up. So I think that there are systems out there. They may not be perfect, but we need to, as I said, even within that context, we need to take control of that conversation and develop perhaps a blockchain system that works for our industry, something that is designed by tea for tea.
No, I think that's awesome 2 points. I mean, first of all, the pricing, and I will talk about this a little bit more this week, but the pricing question might really become very crucial for supermarkets, also because it's the need to rethink business models is a question that is being pushed forward by human rights due diligence laws. And I think that's for the first time, where it's not just about, do you have a code of conduct?
Yes.
But it's actually, does your business model work
Yes.
To create fair fair supply chain? And if it doesn't, then the business model can be actually put in question, even in front of a court. So I think that's a really, really interesting development that we're having in Europe in particular.
I think that's really interesting, actually. And it's interesting that it's going through by the courts, because we saw that, I think, in a very organic way, exactly that principle during COVID. Business models that didn't work shut down, right? Yeah. Because it magnified where the pressure points were, and those cracks, they broke.
They broke, yeah.
Right? So what you're describing is that now, we take the pandemic out of the situation and you put a court in it and to make the judgment. And absolutely, they shouldn't exist, right? There are so many industries like that. I mean, take the restaurant industry. It is not a sustainable model.
Yeah.
It simply isn't. And again, the pandemic proved that to so many people.
No, and then the second point as well, and that's obviously where I think all of us can make a contribution is to look at the distribution.
Yes.
And to understand that. And I guess there's a lot of need of transparency that we'll need to increase, because right now it doesn't feel like anybody knows exactly, right? So that's why some people have the feeling there is a pocket of money somewhere, because we don't have sufficient transparency on how these things work.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably for producers here, often not very visible.
Right.
Where who's making the money off the thing
I'm
producing?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe changing the topic a little bit. So when we did a bit of research, your association is about 60 years old.
Yes.
Can you share a little bit, maybe some highlights or things that make you positive, that you with your association can actually make a change for the positive for the industry and obviously the people who live off this industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So the association, as you said, was established in 1954, and we've gone through a number of iterations, right? So we actually started with Tea and Coffee, then it was the Tea Association and the Tea Council. So one was the regulatory part and the other part was the promotion part. Then those two merged. And then our most recent iteration was, the word that not everybody loves to really talk about in this kind kind of setting, and that's becoming the Tea and Herbal Association of Canada. And that's just the reality that consumers call anything in English, anything that we pour hot water on, we call it tea, right? And it is a part of what we do, and you know, trying to pretend that it isn't is just unrealistic. I think that you know, as a whole, I think that, you know, the association itself, because we represent so many different brands and so many different parts of the supply chain. I mean, our association has the entire supply chain truly in it. I've got growers as members. I've got packers and importers and retailers and even students. And I'll get to that because I'm really proud of that one. But you know, I think that the advantage that we have is that we do a lot of horizon scanning, right? We are not looking at, you know, the work that we do as, you know, how's it going to benefit one single company and, you know, to increase profits. What we're looking at is the industry as a whole, and what can we do to bring our members together to work on issues that really should be pre-competitive issues, right? So an example would be the carbon roadmap project that we work together on, actually, with UKTIA. So my UK counterpart, Sharon Hall, and we'll actually be presenting on that tomorrow. So we work together on projects. We find these types of projects where, as I said, we do these horizon scanning to find issues, to find perhaps you know, pressure points within the industry that nobody can deal with on their own, and yet it's you know, we're the perfect source for being able to bring people together in, let's call it a safe space, to help provide some of these answers, you know. And some of that happens, you know, by going to events like this and having conversations and making relationships and trying to piece people together like that, right? So the carbon project, I think, is definitely a big one that I'm quite proud of. But there's so many projects that we work on. We just put together a global campaign. So we're part of the FAO Intergovernmental Group on Tea, which at our last meeting in Guwahati in January of this year, we formed 2 new pillars, and one of them was a promotion pillar, which myself, so Canada, and Sri Lanka are co-chairs of. And collectively, as an industry, we agreed that we needed to do a global campaign. And we put together a global campaign called Tea Power. And we pushed that ahead. We put together all of the collateral, all of the material, all of the hashtags, the videos, the images, etc., and shared it with everybody to use freely. We pushed that through International Tea Day, which was a huge success. And we're pushing it again because Tea Power is about hydration and sport and fitness. The Olympics were exactly, so we're pushing it again for the 10 days of the Olympics. The last one I have to tell you about is our education. Is our education program. And I have to say that I'm proud of it as an association, but I'm personally proud of it because I wrote it. So I wrote it when I started actually, you know, with my position as a director on the board of the association, long before I had this position, when I was, you know, still in the private sector. And it was just truly believing that we needed, as an industry, to be educating consumers, not only consumers, but also people that wanted to get into the industry, right? It's this idea of alignment. It's this idea of we should all be talking the same language. We should not be putting out false information, wrong information. So I, you know, nothing existed. So I wrote the program for the association. We have partners around the globe. So we have a partner in Italy. So the program is offered in Italian. We have a partner in France. So it's offered in French. We have a partner in Mexico. So the program is offered in Spanish, and we offer it online. So I would say it's the highlight of everything for me.
That's awesome. Yeah. That does sound like a really, really nice program. And I do think, from what I've heard today, the tea industry will be very thankful for all those kind of initiatives, and also just this promotion of tea and the knowledge of tea. I think it came up a few times.
Yes.
We're making advertisement for a brand, but what we need to do is advertisement for the product and the respect for the product, which obviously for us is so important because it then can translate into respect for the people who grow the tea.
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, it's about rising tides raise all ships, right? And we are all ships in that same, that same water. Right. And I think that there are a lot of times on so many of these issues and so many of the issues that you deal with, important issues, that we have to work collaboratively on them. Otherwise, it's not going to get done.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time after what I know has been a very long time. So really appreciate it. And
thank you.
Looking forward to continue our conversations.
Thanks, Ines.
Thank you.
That's all for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. We hope that you learned something from our podcast today and that it sparked new ideas or thoughts around human rights due diligence in the tea industry. If you'd like to discuss or explore today's topic further with us or just leave feedback, we'd be happy to hear from you. Simply email info.sl@childrights-business.org. More information about the Centre's work, including the Mother and Child Friendly Seal for Responsible Business, can be found on our website, www.childrights-business.org. And don't forget to follow our podcast to not miss an episode. Until next time, goodbye.